And so Dionysus is an ancient pre-Christian. I mean, this ritual is pre-Christian. And so in the Olympics, I think what they were saying is, I know this is at once was a Christian country, but we were here first.
This Exorcist exposes satanic rituals to the god of Dionysus and so many others. Guys, let me tell you, this is so disturbing and disgusting, but we gotta trust in God during the good and the bad, when it's difficult, when it's hard, because God is good. So let's get right into it. Shout out to the Sean Ryan Show.
This was the great bisexual god. The great bisexual, also known as the great masturbator, is what his name was. Now, this is not just me finding kooky sources. This is academic sources looking up what this stuff. I mean, I'm using, I'm doing academic research. I'm not just pulling stuff off Wikipedia. Okay, so these are the deities that are there. But think about it. God created Adam and Eve in our image. It says in Genesis chapter 1, in our image, let us create man. Male and female, let us create them. So something about the binary of the male and female reflects the inner life of God. We see hints of the Trinity already when God speaks in our image, and not let us create man in my image, our image. And something in the male and female reflects that. And then now we get into Egypt and the slavery of Egypt, you have the great bisexual God who begets, I won't even discuss how he does it, how he begets children and spits them out of his mouth, and can change genders and can allow others to change their genders. This goes back to ancient Egypt.
What do you describe it?
Describe.
Sounds graphic.
It is graphic.
What is it?
He ingests his own semen and produces children out of his mouth, as opposed to God creating and begetting Adam and Eve. This in their mythology, this is how this deity that is both male and female.
Wow.
What is a deity? Is that a demon?
Psalm 96:5, the gods of the Gentiles are demons. So it's a demon, yeah. So you fast forward, not to jump too much in time and space, but the Olympic ceremony, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was outraged because it was a mockery of the Last Supper. I don't think so. I'm not sure. I mean, it was a mockery. Anytime they can mock Christians, they can. But this is a Dionysian ritual. That was a representation of Dionysus.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with, that's another ancient.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. So I was reading the Roman historian Livy. Okay, you had Roman historians, you have Livy, Herodotus, and a few others. Okay, Josephus was a Jewish Roman. But I think it was around 100, around the same time that the book of Maccabees was written. In the Catholic Bible, the book of Maccabees is around that time, 200, 150. They were actually in the book of Maccabees, a couple of things. It says, and the Israelites, Judas Maccabeus and the Israelites waged war joyfully for the Lord. And so giving us a little precursor into waging war. But what were they waging war against? The Gentiles were forcing them. If you did not submit to the Dionysian rituals, you lost all property rights. They were enforcing them to convert to this ritual. And this ritual was nasty. So what this came from Greece. And picture in your mind what was going on at that Last Supper ritual. That Olympic.
The Olympics.
The Olympic, yeah. So you have a guy there, you have trannies, right? You have the guy there laying on the table, right? You have boys with children, you have transvestites, and so they go into, so anyway, Livy describes this, and you can look this up in his writings. He's describing to the Roman Senate in 150, I think, 100 to 158 BC. We do not want to let this into our pantheon. We don't want to offend this God. We don't know who he is, but let us twist this a little bit and let's just make him the god of wine. And so it kind of comes into Roman culture a little differently as Bacchus. But Dionysus, the origins of Dionysus was Greek women would go into the forest. They were called maenads, where you get the word maniac, right? And it would be drug infused drug-fueled, alcohol and drugs particularly, women would go and the idea was to break societal norms, because women in Greek culture were much more, you see this today. You go look at the way women are treated in the Middle East compared to, say, Rome today, So you see how this is kind of an ancient, the way women were treated back in ancient Greece, pre-Christian Greece. So they were they would go out and express themselves, and they would have orgies, and they would go, their hair would be crazy, and they would scream and yell out, and they would have orgies and these other things in honor of this Dionysian, this god Dionysus, who was also known able to change his genders. So some of the men said, this sounds like fun. Naked women out in the woods, getting high, drinking, whatever. So they started instituting and letting men into these rituals. But if you want to be a part of this woman ritual, you have to do certain things like a woman, and it was obey or buffet. And Livy, the Roman historian Livy, describes it, that they would, part of the drums that they would beat would hide the screams of those who refused to comply to these sexual rituals, sodomistic rituals, that they would take him into caves and sacrifice him, human sacrifice.
That kind of reminds me a little bit about what's going on today. In a way, maybe they're not getting human sacrifice. Maybe they're not getting completely humiliated, but either you comply or you get secluded from the rest of society. Either you comply or you get fired from your job. Like, so many of these things have correlations, and they're in that same kind of spirit, I would say, still is in society. And to see that mockery in the Olympics is just mind-blowing. A lot of people say, yeah, maybe it was a mockery of Jesus. But in reality, what's worse? A shrine to another god? Paying homage to this sick cult? I don't know. Like, worshiping other god? That's terrible. That's one of the commandments. You shall not have no other god before me. Do not make any graven image either. Like, that's dangerous. It's creeping into society. They don't know what their gender is. They're always switching their roles. They are trying to make God in their own image. So many things. So that's wild that he's making this correlation, for sure. Well, let's continue.
And so Dionysus is an ancient, pre-Christian, this ritual was pre-Christian. And so in the Olympics, I think what they were saying is, I know this is, at once was a Christian country, but we were here first. Dang. And we're claiming it back. We're taking this space back. Think about Rome. If you've ever been to Rome, it's amazing. You should get there.
I've been there.
Maybe someday you go there and interview the Pope. And the Pantheon, the Greek Pantheon, what's called the Pantheon, it's the Pantheos, all the gods. It's now the Church of St. Mary and all the martyrs. And so this is a beautiful church. There's a big opening in the middle, and they drop rose petals down on Pentecost every Sunday. It's an ancient church. So they converted this church and it's very Roman to do this. You take a pagan place and you baptize it and you make it Christian, So they take this place, this celebration to all the pagan gods, and we now call it St. Mary and all the martyrs. So all the martyrs, and it's filled with relics of early church Roman martyrs. I had mass there in one of the small chapels in the basement there with, second century martyrs, like 100, 120, Felicity, Perpetua, 150 AD, martyrs that were killed. And so going back in the Catholic tradition, we understand that the angels who fell, their thrones were vacated, right? The fallen angels. And God replaces them with us, which is one of the reasons they hate us so much. So now what became the church or the temple to all the gods now becomes the temple to St. Mary and the martyrs. And so, which is why they have such burning hatred for us. And so space is sacred.
We always get taught a lot of times, oh, they hate us because we're made in God's image. But technically, the Bible doesn't say that angels weren't made in God's image either. I mean, it doesn't say that necessarily. It doesn't say they weren't. It doesn't say they are either, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe they don't want us to worship God. They don't want us to worship our Creator. They want to be worshipped.
Both to us and to them. And so I think what's happening is across the world, they're saying, hey, we were here first, guys. We're just taking back. You guys displaced us when Christianity was here, and you guys kicked us out. We're just going to reclaim. We were here first. I think that whole opening ceremony was part of that.
Dang.
Wow.
It's when you start to see what's happening. That's why in the book I say is, and this comes from Kyle, Father's right-hand man. He was my sensei. He was my master sergeant, and teach me a lot of this stuff. We fight an ancient enemy. Ancient weapons are best. These guys, man, they've been around a long, long time. They've been trapping. One time, Father Ripperker asked the demon, "Why do you keep doing the same things over and over to trap humans?" He said, "Because they work." So, but I was just in doing some training of priests and teams in Germany. And in Berlin, there's a church. There was St. Peter's Church in Berlin that was torn down, and in its place is now an interfaith worship space for all religions, Hindus, Muslims. There's, and it's just this: as the church gets weakened, the enemy's pushing back.
I mean,
That might sound insane.
no, it doesn't. I mean, I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
We see in today's society so many things. In the spiritual realm, we see that so many things are fighting against each other. They're fighting for more space. And the more Christianity sits back on their knees and they don't keep on pushing forward, I would say that allows the enemy to creep in. There is spiritual realms. Yes, it's so hard to comprehend. And for me, even as well, sometimes I like to say, I don't know, I don't want to completely go down that route. But maybe there's more to reality than what meets the eye. Obviously, the Bible talks about it. But for us, it's just so hard to comprehend,
And I've talked about this before, but when I see things like the Olympics, or I'll list off a number of things here in a minute, but when I see things like that, it actually strengthens my faith in Christ, because that's the other side, which is obviously alive and well right now. And I look at that like, look at this. Like, this is, it is what it is. And if that's real,
Yeah.
then so is the good side. And so, ever since I've come to Christ, I've been paying attention to these things, and while they enrage me and they piss me off, and I get really upset, ruins my day, my week, whatever, it at the same time it's strengthening my faith, because if there's a dark side, then there's a good side. And but just in the couple of years that I've kind of come back to, we've seen the Olympics. We saw Easter, I think a year and a half ago, where the letterhead from the White House was Transgender Day happened to fall on Easter, but they put little Easter bunnies in the letterhead. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You saw Notre Dame catch fire in France. I mean, there's just the Epstein stuff, the P. Diddy stuff, the artist, what's her name?
Abramovich.
Oh, yeah, Abramovich. I mean, it's all around us, and I'm paying attention. I just keep seeing it over and over and over and over again. And you see the decline in people going to church, and it makes it real. And then on top of that, it really sparks my interest in spiritual warfare, and because I know it's real.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was like, I don't know about
You're
all
kooky.
this stuff. But,
Yeah.
but now I'm tuned in and I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
That's
The enemy they have a sacred calendar too. They're more ritualistic and precise in their ritual than we are. We get sloppy. They do everything sinestro to the left. Certain colors,
What colors?
black and red specifically. There's certain days, moons, stars, equinox. These things all have cosmic significance.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan show from, if you get
It's crazy to think about like the significance between certain ritualistics, because coming from like Protestant, evangelical Protestant, there's not a lot of ritualistic things that we like to kind of make sure we do all the time, because we're like doing ritualistic stuff. So you don't want it to be like, oh, the not by my works and all of that. And I get that. But there's something to the way you do things that maybe we should think about. But yeah, we live in a fallen world. We live in a crazy world. We live in a spiritual world. And that's something that we got to pay attention to. Something that we got to be mindful of. Do we have to be super afraid? No. Do we have to live in fear? No. You know why? Because we have a relationship with God and we're living a life for Him. So guys, I encourage you to trust in Jesus and put Him first above all else. Guys, this is absolutely amazing. In the description below, you can click a link to help you to decide to follow Jesus for the first time. I encourage you to do that today, guys. And always remember, Jesus loves you.